very, very fun. As we're going to kickstart this in the top right right side. I was going to say side, then I was going for corner, so a bit of a sauna. Oh, a scorner. Whoa. It is going to be the blue Zerg player Solar to kick us off into the first best of 5 of the day, taking on the red Terran player from Team GP. In the bottom left-hand corner, it is Ryung. Glitter and Ashes, map number 1 picked from Solar. Ryung picked map number 2, Hardwire. Has been a confusing veto process today. Let me tell you that much as we get this all set up and all ready to roll. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Thursday. We're nearly at that weekend, and we have continued StarCraft pretty much every single day for you guys. Very, very excited to keep on sharing and showing all the wonderful stuff we've got planned for you. So, hell yeah to that. And without further ado, let's start talking about some TVZ. 5 best of 5s today in the playoffs of the WardiTV Winter Championship. And we'll see how they go. We'll see how the matches turn out. And yeah, hopefully have some good ones. Hopefully have a good time here. And yeah, fingers crossed we get some entertaining games, as I really do think we should have a few on our plates at least by the time we are through with this. So, as we get started, just going to be seeing our Overlord moving around over to the far left-hand side at the moment, getting that set up. And just going to be seeing a couple of refineries, a couple of barracks, all of this building. So a little bit intriguing here from Ryung. Just basically going for the CC first and then going into the barracks. And it's not every day you see double racks on the back of CC first nowadays either. So kind of intrigued by the combination of things that he's committing into right now. And definitely sets up a little point of interest. And I do wonder a little as to just how this is going to end up turning out, because it definitely sets the stage to be something a little bit off from, you know, usual expectations, basically. So, yeah, we'll see what does indeed go down. Like I say, it'll be off and started very, very soon into some proper action, as we have the double orbital finishing up. The double rack's getting set to go as well. And all of that is more or less just coming into play over the next few moments. It's going to be seen with Stims done and basically double racks. What we will get is a good Marine count very quickly. And as you get up to that good, quick Marine count, you're going to be able to do a lot to probably, I'd say you're going to probably end up doing a lot to potentially put your opponent in that kind of weirder position, you know? You can really kind of get out onto the map, put some pressure on with a bunch of Marines with that stim. Kind of have that starport on the way. It's essentially a 2-1-1 follow-up, and you know, this can be very scary if you don't deal with it properly as the Zerg, so definitely some cause for concern, reason to be cautious here is Solar, as Ryung gets himself set up here in this game number 1. I mean, big map, so something like this I kind of like as well, because it gives you a good kind of economic start. It gives you a good kind of, you know, place to play from, and I think that's very important here, right? Getting a good place to play from, being able to kind of get on the map early and just take some of the map control away from the Zerg in those early stages. The more you start doing that right away, I think the better a time you're going to have overall. As we do just see the Fuelings here just nibbling and putting in some pressure. Just seeing if they can make anything happen at the front. The wall-off isn't complete yet on that low ground, but there's enough Marines that I don't think even like a Ling timing would have been all that scary in this scenario, because usually you would have less Marines than this right now. That's the power of going CC first and straight to that double racks after, I believe. And yeah, I don't think like a mass of Lings would have been able to abuse that lack of wall-off. And you saw Ryung positioned on the high ground too, so he would have been able to pull his SCVs into the main, hold at the ramp, and would have been able to minimize losses had Solar gone for something along those lines. That one thing is trying to come back in, but doesn't do too well. The Marines will pick it off. The couple medevacs still sat overhead, and the armory now finishing on the side of Ryung. So getting that armory completed, there's a couple Hellions and Marines will move down the ramp and onto the center. A single Zergling there you can see is kind of going back and forth a little bit, trying to figure out what it can do. As we do have our extra Zerglings all continuing up. will coming into play alongside a few banelings as well. As Marines continue over the far right-hand side, just going to see a few Hellions unloading and just going to start morphing those into Hellbats, so a little bit of a different approach here. As I didn't think about just adding Hellbats into this and just having a single medevac, but that's obviously what he played for with the setup. You can see the Banes coming through, the Ling's getting a good surround, and this just gets kind of crushed, to be honest. Solar does not have time for messing around with this build order. He shuts that down, cleans it up, and sends Ryung a packing immediately. Like I say, just absolutely no chill on that defense. He was just... He basically came out and said, I'm not dying right now. And that was that. That was all they wrote. And that was the end of the conversation. So, wow. That's, like I said, that was a convincing defense from Solar. And pushing that back with so much ease has got to be a cause for concern here now from Ryung. He's got to look at this a little bit and say, like, oh god, well, now what? Well, he's going to switch into Mech. And this is something we've been seeing a little bit of, you know, from Ryung as well. We saw this in the group stages from him when he played against... Oh, who did he play against in the group stages? Armani? He played some long games against Armani and was especially cool. I'm just going to see our Marines there. Going to be able to grab that Overseer, so that will go down. And just going to be having our Liberator still sieged up overhead on this base. Still just keeping that sieged up. The CC going down on the natural. That's another base coming online, as we do have the 3 base set up in total. So yeah, I mean, the initial push, the initial attack, more of a distraction than anything else, and now we've got into this mech play. Well, let's see how this mech play turns out, as Solo's gone into missiles and melee upgrades, so it doesn't feel like he's been completely caught off guard here. In fact, feels like he's got pretty good awareness of what exactly is happening. The Hellions coming forward will get rid of a bunch of group tumors to begin with, so that will be a starting point, at least for some damage here as well. So that's, of course, nice. There's a few of those Hellions peeling away off over to the side, and obviously right now you're going to have a lot of Hellions in play as Ryung. You're going to have a lot of units you can just continue to throw at your opponent, and that will be something to keep in mind as well. That will play quite interestingly here over the course of this game. Commuters making their way down the bottom right-hand side. Hellions and a couple Cyclones are going to come through and get some lock-ons to start putting some damage out, so just making do with that at the moment. They're just getting locked on too. Cyclones will do a good job of clearing those mutas out, and we'll be clearing those up. And now just going to be continuing on to the mutas once again. A few mutas will get rid of quite a few SCVs in fairness. I mean, they do very well for themselves there, as the Cyclones do clean up in full. That's 12 SCVs that have gone down on the side of Ryung. Fairly notable, right? I mean, 12 SCVs is a bit of a hit, but it's a pretty big investment into mutas as well. You consider 6 mutas went down already. Every muta is worth 2 SCVs. Well, that's basically you're paying 100 gas for every 2 SCVs you just killed. More than anything, this is usually kind of just to force some units out of position and to try and maybe get some picks and allow for this follow-up attack to be very powerful. And to be fair, this follow-up attack really does start by looking very powerful. As you see the Hellions and Cyclones doing their best to hold on. The planetary being repaired, these Banes are going to decide to go toward the army and not toward the base. Now they're going to come back over here looking for those SCVs, and they will just go for the busting power of the Banes and just take down that command center. And now Hellion Cyclone is going to try and give chase. That's one of the things that it is best at, not letting units get back away once they've committed to a fight, or at least being able to punish to some extent when those units are trying to escape. And that is the one thing that looks probably best compared to everything else right there, all things considered, as we do have the Liberator sieged up. It's going to be seeing our Cyclones continue to lock onto those few Queens, and again, keeping the action moving. We do actually have a Roach Ravager force also coming down through the center of the map. It's going to be tough, man. I feel like Ryung already lost a little bit too much this game. The initial bio attack didn't do much, and he didn't catch his opponent off guard at all with the Mech switch. And so a lot of trickery in this game, but none of it really came to fruition. None of it was really exactly what it needed to be. And hence Solo is going to come out with a 1-0 lead in this best of 5 round of 6 matchup. Left-hand corner, we do begin with the Blue Zerg player already taking that 1-0 lead. This is Solar. Up against the red Terran player in the top right-hand corner from Team GP, we have got Ryung. Alrighty then, Ryung. What we're going to pull out this time. He was very creative, thinking back to the group stage. He really was very creative and consistently coming out with some different builds and different strategies. Excited to see if we continue to bring that into play this time around versus Solar. It feels like you almost need to in a way, because obviously Solar is very good. You know, trying to get a leg up in the series definitely will aid you if you can keep your builds weird, but Solar's also good to the point where you've got to consider that sometimes weird is just, manageable for him, and he was not thrown off at all in that last game. And because he wasn't thrown off at all, he just looked even more powerful, because then you're committing to all of this stuff to try and throw him off and to deal damage and to put him in a weird place, and none of it works. Well, that's obviously, pretty painful at that stage, because then you've invested a lot into it and, you don't get much out of it. Not a whole bunch of fun. Alright, we're just going to be seeing the Hatch Guessing Pool versus a Reaper opening. This time, obviously, not a Command Center first on Hardwire, so something a little bit different. Solar did show us the other day, I think was it Bjorn played on Hardwire? I think it was Hardwire, maybe it was 2K. But Bjorn went CC first, and Solar spotted it, immediate roach roar, and more or less won the game off the damage he did with that. So, yeah, Solar definitely ain't afraid to mix it up and to be aggressive if he needs to, and if he sees the opportunity to be aggressive, he oftentimes will absolutely leap on that chance. Reaper continues to move down to the bottom left-hand side. Just going to be seeing it moving into this natural. As you see, the Lings taking quite a bit of damage. A little bit of stun damage being done. We do have a drone taking quite a few shots. The Queen popping out and hitting that Reaper back a little bit. Doing a good job of putting some pressure out there. And so far, so good. We're going to drop this little Reaper grenade down as well. And just try and keep this pressure up at the moment. See what we can do with it, as the Reaper is going to be moving back over the side. And that is going to be a little laggy today on Korea. Is that me? I'm not going to leave unless the players mention it, because sometimes when my ping spikes up a little bit, I will lag, but it actually doesn't affect the players. So obviously we don't want to just jump out of the game if it's not affecting the players. And I don't think it is, because you can see how my client is freezing, but the timer continues. That usually means that it's only on my end. So as long as this is just on my end, guys, we're just going to sit through it, and hopefully it passes by. But it doesn't seem to be affecting the players, and like I say, they will absolutely tell me, I'm sure, if it is. But yeah, Korean server lately has just had these random spikes where you just have moments of, oh look, you can't do anything. You're just lagging out. It's like, is my internet okay? Yep, the internet's completely fine, so why am I lagging out? And the game's just like, because we say you should. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. Reaper a couple of Hellions around the left-hand side. We're going to fight the Overlord just a little bit there, and yeah, that's how we continue for the moment. Just going to see the couple Hellions and the Viking continue to make their way down to the south as well. It's just walking in on that. And just going to be having our couple extra Queens still producing Stimpak. Also being added into play at the moment, and just going to be seeing our group spread continue to push out through the bottom side of the map. Hellions and the Reaper come over, and immediately just going to be kind of moving forwards. Well, there's a few drones that have to pull away, of course, from that, as the Lings going to run back over themselves and start to look for a little bit of a surround on these Hellions. Starting to do okay and starting to push them back. That was really nice. I mean, 3 Hellions go down. You've only killed 5 Lings. It's fair to say that this is already not the opening you're looking for as the Terran player. Obviously, that's not the trade you're looking for in the slightest, and for obvious reasons. So that's that's going to be, unfortunately, not ideal. I was just going to be having this Group of drones just mining away on the main, mining away on the natural. 1-1 melee upgrades continuing up at the moment. There's a lot of upgrades coming in across the board right now. Just going to be having the Liberator just to try and make an attempt across the map. If it can possibly do some damage, that would be fantastic, right? Just level things out a little bit, because things definitely not really going the way that Ryung wants them to so far. If you could get some drones, if you can slow Solar down a little. There's already a nice, Zerg map. Large, difficult for moving across as the Terran, hard to rally your pushes together. If you could do something to kind of slow the Zerg down, that would be brilliant. Otherwise, I will pretty much always say that you're going to have a very difficult road ahead of you. And you really are, honestly. I mean, it's not going to be easy. Not going to be easy in the slightest as we just set up that hatchery going down. And, yeah. See what continues to take place. Just going to see a couple of medevacs coming out with the rest of the units at the moment. Queens starting to fight. Queenslings, Banes fighting back as well. A little bit of back and forth there to begin with. The Liberator now going to start pinging the Overlord just a little bit. So a little bit of back and forth as we do see our 2-2 melee upgrades continued in. We actually grabbed the Overseer in the center of the map as well, so being able to take that one down as you go is a nice little bonus as well. And just watching medevacs and all the rest of this continuing out. The medevacs will load up, move back to the middle of the map. A few queens are going into the center there to try and chase that down. And just going to be seeing this entire Ling Bane force joining up together in the center. Our queens will be ready with them to try and fight. And as Ryung comes across for the first push, we'll see how successful he can be. Here Ling Bane so far, but you can already see the infestation pit coming up on the side of Solar, right? So he's already prepping himself for the future here, getting himself ready to try and make something a little bit different happen as we press on in. Ling Bane already getting pushed back, and now going to run back through. A couple of shots going off and dealing some good damage to begin with, as we are going to be seeing the Queens continuing to be chased. And the Marine Force looking to try and fight back a little bit. The Ling Bane still coming forward. He's going to try and get rid of even more units here if at all possible. At the moment, Ryung's push is actually looking good. He does have an army supply lead. Given time, he's going to be behind on upgrades and in a bit of a more of a problematic position. But right now, in this moment, Ryung has a little bit of momentum behind him. And he might be able to do something here. We'll see what the Widow Mines do as well. They're obviously going to be critical in terms of whether this is going to be ending up in, Ryung's or Solar's favor. And I wonder now if there's too many reinforcements here from the Zerg, though. You can just see how much there is from Solar. And Ryung just hasn't had extra units showing up for a little while. The problem is his position wasn't scary enough that it stopped the Zerg from kind of pushing in and clearing up before reinforcements got there. There wasn't enough siege up, or there wasn't enough, Widow Mines to really stop it from happening. Kind of a tough one is just going to be seeing our bio army. We'll continue to move down to the south. A couple of queens still under fire and continue to take some hits. Crypt spread continues to be cleaned out as well. As our bio units are stem back up towards the top. These Lings coming through, and those Marines going to be in some immediate trouble. And this little Bioforce really is going to be in some trouble as the Lings continue to stream on through for that. And actually picking off a lot of the reinforcements, and that's just great. Slowing Ryung down, really taking the wind out of his sails when it comes to his follow-up push here. And of course, Ryung really does want to just keep on pushing. He's on 8 racks, no 4th phase. This is a push that's designed to be scary. And that's why you have that initial kind of supply lead, and you run and it's like, oh my god, Ryung, you got an opportunity here. But the moment Solar breaks that, now it starts to feel very difficult for Ryung because he's not set up for any of the other things. When Clem does this build, one of the cool things he does is sometimes he realizes, hey, look, this isn't going to work right away. So he kind of commits to 8 racks, but then bows out of 8 racks very quickly afterward because he's like, this isn't going to be great for me. So he starts a 4th base much sooner. And I always loved that because it feels like he gets the initial power of the 8 racks, But then he's just got such strong macro behind it that the Zerg doesn't expect, and that little combination can create some interesting moments as well, for sure. Bio through the middle, Bio on the right, gonna catch a whole bunch of these banelings, so a lot of Banes begin to go down. Just gonna be seeing our Lings and Banes continue forward, wouldn't mind burrowing up, and our Ling Bane army continues straight on through. Bio Force continue to fight here, and just gonna be having the Hydras also coming in to just help play cleanup. There's a lot of units that continue to go down. I mean, it's just gonna be so much from Solar behind this. There's gonna be nothing to really stop him swarming forwards. GG from Ryung, and Solar's going to take the 2-0 lead to start off this best of 5. Really not having any trouble at all. As we have in the top left-hand side, our Blue Zerg player from Kaizi Gaming taking the 2-0 lead, and already on match point here, it is Solar. Ryung, time for you to figure out what the hell we're going to change up and what we're going to fix here. Let's see what he comes out with very shortly, as we get our next match here up and ready to a rumble. Are those Pokemon sweatbands? Yeah. I love them. I wear them all the time. To the point where they're kind of I don't want to say falling apart, but the logo on them is definitely very well worn. They're super cozy. They're great for casting, you know? Like, they look like I have, like, you know, proper trousers on and stuff, so people are like, whoa, Wardy gets dressed for his streams. Compared to when I wear my polar bear PJ bottoms, everyone's like, Wardy, did you just roll out of bed? I'm like, well, yeah, but even if I didn't, I'd probably still be wearing these. So they're great for streams because they're cozy and people don't ask questions a lot. 10 out of 10 combination. Thank you, Dead Guy 99, for the 3-year resub. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Actually finishes up on the natural, couple queens, couple lings, all on the way out. Reaper is continuing to pop and is going to be moving forward. Out onto the map. And we'll have a sight here to see if Ryung can do something with it being a smaller map, right? That's really the question mark of smaller map. Can you make this work? We'll find out very, very soon. Are the tiger doggies the new scrap bot, and can you explode them? I don't think you can select the dogs. The dogs aren't selectable, not like scrap bots. But they've been around a while. It was just kind of funny that so many maps that made the ladder map pool at the same time had scrap bots, and specifically in annoying places. It's funny, like, because we've seen scrap bots before, but then all of a sudden, for like every map had scrap bots out of nowhere. Was actually kind of amusing to see. It's going to be seeing a 3cc here, by the way, from Ryung, so at least a bit of macro focus for the most part. Solo will be very cautious, as he loses a drone to the Reaper, but cautious in the building of the Overlord speed. He wants to know what his opponent is doing, he wants to see what his opponent is setting up for. He would like to have that information, and he will play to get that information in general. When you mass click them, they still explode? Really? How can you mass click them if they're not selectable, though? Is that actually a thing? I had no idea. I'm not a critter expert like Austin, though. So. Like, how can the game recognize you're clicking them if they're not selectable? That's, like, mind-boggling. It's like, whoa. Wardy's mind is blown. What? Keeper up around the top, just going to be seeing it coming back down, and just going to be having a couple of Hellions on the way out over on the other side, so those are continuing through as well at the moment. You mean mind bottling? What do you mean mind? What's mind bottling mean? You don't know, but it works. Fair enough. I mean, you don't have to be able to explain everything. Alien's coming in from the side. We'll grab a single drone just to begin with. So, nice little grab, get a drone, step out of the way. So, apparently my connection to Korea is lagging again. It's really unfortunate that this happens because it's just... It's one of those things that you can't really do anything about. And if this affects the players, I'm sure they'll tell us. But usually, this is a case lately of it very much so just being kind of on my side, and it cleans up after a few seconds. So, I just have to hope that this will clean up in a few seconds. If your mind is like in a bottle? I'm so confused. I've completely lost track of the conversation. Man, we are really lagging. Is this really just my FPS? Just my ping? It's just so random. It just spikes up, and then after like 30 seconds or so, it's just fixed again, you know? And it's just frustrating because obviously if it was lagging the players, we'd have to leave the game. But if it's not lagging the players and they don't notice it, then we may as well sit through it, because if we can sit through it, we do obviously get to then watch the rest of the game instead of missing out on half the game. It's like, I will not let those 30 seconds bring me down, you know? Well, medevacs are moving out into the middle of the map there, so just going to be taking a little bit of a stand. See if they can join up with some units and make something happen. Definitely feels like we need to try and get something done in the near future. As all the upgrades continue out, and Tap Alien Speed is about to be finished up here from Solar, so that will be wrapping up and just going to be having the Armory continuing up as well from Ryung, so that's going to allow him to go into his 2-2 upgrades. Man, this is like low-key unwatchable. Sorry guys, I just it's obviously very, I understand that it distracts you guys more when I mention it, but then it's very hard to cast when the screen freezes up every second or so. Well, we'll see what happens as Ryung is pressing forward. The 1-1 upgrades are coming through. They're going to be finished up already, and not quite there yet for Solar, but Ryung is back to defend against this initial Baneling drop, so that will not do all too much immediately. Just going to be seeing these Marines continue to pull back. Tanks will be left to fire up the Storm, and none of the Banes will connect on Marines. Apart from the left side, we actually do get some connections. Was that enough to justify this entire attack? It might just have been. Marines Hellbat and a couple other units just trying to press forward and continue, as we do have reinforcements streaming across the map. Well, if Solar can clean this up, then brilliant, but Ryung has definitely got momentum on his side. 8 racks in this up, a second game in a row. You know, this is the difference about Berlingrad versus Hardwire, that first of all, I mean, the fight was just better here for Ryung, but these reinforcements can come across so much more quickly, so this pressure continues so much sooner and gives the Zerg that less time to prep. It obviously goes such a long way in that regard, so definitely some big steps made as Missile Turret trying to get the Overlord. Quite get it. Now we'll get it as the Marines come through, and they're going to be able to clean that up. And a few Marines spoke their way on the hatchery on the left-hand side. Going to pick that off as well. All of those Marines, the tank, setting up together and prepping to, well, at the moment we're prepping to keep on pushing forwards here, so Marines are coming through the center for the moment. Marines trying to counterattack, not really able to make their way in too well. We do see Ling Bing going to continue to stream forward Ling's to go to the third base, at least he'll deal some damage, but he's going to have to pull back to deal with this army. Now, he will be able to get a big flank off if he wants it, so that is now an option for you. You can get this flank off and maybe try do something with that. So we can see now Marines still gathering together and seeing if they can keep on pushing. Here we go, Solar from the top right, from the bottom left. A lot of Banes, and some of them need to connect. Marines are going to get left into medevacs, but a big cluster didn't make it into the medevac before they went down, so a few Marines fall. And I think the steam is running out for Ryung. I don't think he's going to be able to keep chugging along with this push. Solar's also getting some hydras up, something a little bit sturdier in the army that helps a bit more than that Ling Bane, especially against attacks like this one. And it really feels like Solar is on the precipice of getting the 3-0 to start the day off and to set himself into a comfortable semi-final appearance. Counterattacks continue, reinforcements are being picked off, and this is going to, again, halt Ryung in his tracks. It's going to really depower a lot of what's going on across the map. Solo is trying to get a couple Vipers out. If you could get some Vipers out, then brilliant. There's so much you can do with that, but obviously you don't want to wait forever if the moment to go is now. But, and again, I think it's okay to wait, especially when the Lings are doing so much on the other side. Still just fighting against reinforcements, and even if they do eventually get cleaned out, they have held up a lot of units and killed off a lot of units in the process, so they've been doing absolutely great, and even SCV's pulling in to try and help defend it. And now the Vipers will be gathering energy and waiting to go, and that's obviously another little pain that you're going to have to put up with here in the very near future. Marines still pressing forward, a couple of Banes crashing in. The Vipers will come through. The Marines are going to go forward there and try and get the Vipers. We do drop a first Blinding Cloud down. Banes continue to roll on into this and just going to be seeing, well, Marines taking so much damage. The Liberator gets shot down here as well. And again, Lings, Hydras, Queens, everything moving to the middle of the map. And we do have our Marines and Medevacs continuing around in the center, trying to reinforce, but of course, they've been waiting on reinforcements that have been stopped for the last minute or so by the Ling run by. So there's not really much for them to wait for. There's not really much for them to do. And I do feel as though we've got ourselves probably a resolution to this best of 5, as Ryung will fall out in the round of 6. We will see him again for the Winter Championship main event, of course. As Solar will obviously be there too, but he'll also be moving on to the semi-finals today. I believe this side of the bracket plays against Nightmare in the round of 4, so that would be our next match up. We will go into that first semi-final before we come down to the bottom side of the bracket and do the round of 6, then round of 4 there, and then our grand finals obviously at the end of the day. 5 best of 5s in total today, but the first of them seems as though it might just be over. Blinding Cloud to help push the Marines around. Parasitic Bomb was on the Medevacs, and just too much to all together here. That's going to be GG's. Ryung taps out, and still just a little bit too good in this TVZ matchup. And is going to move on through to the semi-finals without really